United States is a melting pot. When you go to the masjid, you see other ethnicities, you see other cultures. Around 8, 9 years ago, I had a student who, she came to attend my classes. You teach Islamic studies, but I hate Islam. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Last month, I had posted a story on my Instagram page, and it was basically to ask me any questions. So one of the questions that was asked was if I could talk about Islam and culture, and what's the distinction, and when do we follow culture, and how it impacts us in our daily lives. And that question, it's actually a very deep question. It's not something that I can answer in a 1 minute or 2 minute video. So I decided that today, inshallah, let's have this discussion. When we talk about culture, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in the Quran, in Surah Al-Hujurat, that I made you into different tribes and I made you into, different groups so that you will recognize each other, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has clearly stated in the Quran that He has made everybody different. Everybody has a different culture, a different ethnicity, different color, and nobody is superior than the other person based on the culture or based on the ethnicity. And that is also why Prophet ﷺ in the last Hajj khutbah, he said that no Ajami, right, has superiority over an Arab, and no Arab is better than an Ajam, right? So, and basically the word Ajam means non-Arab. So the Arabs in the pre-Islamic era at that point in Mecca, they had a pride over being Arab. And Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he said in his last khutbah that it doesn't matter whether you're Arab or you're not Arab. In front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the only person that has the highest status is somebody who is righteous, somebody that fears Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, somebody who treats other people right because of the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So, this is something that's not new. It's we all know. We look around in our communities, we look around in our masajid, especially living in the West, living in the United States. It's a melting pot, right? United States is a melting pot. When you go to the masjid, you see other ethnicities, you see other cultures, and you realize that we're all united based on Tawheed. We're all united based on the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And no one's culture is better than another person's. But since United States is a melting pot, and there are so many cultures here, it becomes a big issue when our kids grow up and they can't tell if they're doing something in their life because it was a part of their culture or because it was part of their religion. And what that ends up doing is A, it causes confusion, right? B, sometimes some cultural practices are very harmful. And because of those cultural practices that have been pushed as religious practices, these teenagers, they kind of turn away from deen. They turn away from their religion. And I wanted to share a story actually today that can help you, and maybe you'll find this relatable. Around 8, 9 years ago, I had a student who, she came to attend my classes, and she was basically put in those classes because of her parents. She was 15, 16 years old. And I realized that every time I go to class, and I basically taught her Quran and Islamic studies, every time I go to her class, she just puts her head down. So I asked a few other teachers, I said, is it just me? Or is that's how she's behaving in your class too? And they said, no, it's just you. So 3 or 4 days later, I decided to have a conversation with her. And I asked her, hey, what's up? I know you're new to the class. Is someone bothering you? And she said to me, I hate Islam. You teach Islamic studies, but I hate Islam. And I started talking to her. I was like, well, hey, why? Like, I understand your sentiments about Islam, but what is the reason that you don't like Islam? And she said to me, because Islam hates women and Islam is so strict with girls. And the example she gave to me was that her brother, who was a year older than her, he's allowed to leave at nighttime without a curfew. He's allowed to have relationships. He was allowed to go to prom and all these school dances. And she wasn't allowed to because her parents told her that in Islam, girls can't do that. And I told her, I said, well, I don't know why your parents said that, But I will tell you that it's even wrong for your brother to do all of that either, right? So Islamically, your brother is not supposed to be in a relationship outside of marriage either. So I don't know why your parents said that, but Islam doesn't allow that for men or for women. For that girl, that was news. And she just looked at me like I was crazy, or I was telling her, making up a lie or something. And then she started bringing up all these other things that she had been told were also Islamic. And turns out that it was very cultural, right? And then later on, I had more conversations with her, and I spoke to her parents. SubhanAllah, she became very attached towards Islam. It took a year, but all of those misconceptions that she had, we talked them out over that year. And this story always stuck with me because if you think about it, that one situation where she felt that she was being treated unfairly because of Islam was actually pushing her away from Islam. And I don't blame, some of our adults and some of our elders either, because sometimes religion is the best way to do tarbiyah. But when we end up using religion to impose things that we want to impose, and we can't use them for our boys, and we only use them for our girls, we actually push them away from deen. We actually push them away from Islam. And same applies to the boys as well, right? If I don't want, or if someone doesn't want their son to go on some, boys' night out or something, or a hiking trip, or when it comes to like a sleepover, and they tell the son, well, no, you can't go because it's haram in Islam. When you're using Islam to impose your values that are not Islamic, later on they're going to grow up and they're going to realize that Islamically all of this was okay. And this age, especially the age of 12 to 19, is the age where we have to help them nurture a relationship with Islam, nurture a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with saying that, hey, it's not about halal and haram. Everything is not about halal and haram. It's about, it is halal, but I don't feel that it's safe for you to go, right? And then when it comes to stuff that's haram completely, right? It's haram for everybody. We can't just say that, our boys can go on proms and our girls can't. Prom is coming up again in a couple of months. So for anybody that's watching this video, that would be something that you would want to think about. Because at the end of the day, whatever is haram for one gender is also haram for the other when it comes to social things, right? So this topic of culture in Islam, it's actually very deep, and it's actually, it impacts generations. It impacts people's relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and with Islam. Now, of course, you're probably like, okay, we went on this whole rant of culture and Islam and what to follow. So what are some of the takeaways? I'll give you two takeaways. Culture is a beautiful thing, right? When we come from different cultures, our cuisines are beautiful, our clothing is beautiful. A lot of cultures have hospitality, there are values that other cultures have. So we have a lot of values that are okay and that are amazing in other cultures. And when those values, when those cultural practices align with Islam, it's perfectly fine to follow them. It's perfectly fine to follow them. Islam is the filter, basically, right? So you take your culture and you pour it through the filter of Islam. Whatever aligns with Islam, you take it. And whatever does not align with Islam, right? Then what do we do? Because there's a lot of practices that don't align with Islam, but we still force them. We force them. And the more and more our kids are getting exposure to technology and they're able to read things and they're able to see things, the more and more they're questioning us. So that's why the second thing is that it's time to unlearn. It's time to unlearn a lot of the things that we thought were Islamic, but they are not. And the unlearning is a process. And it's going to take time. The best way to unlearn that is by educating ourselves. We have to educate ourselves. Whether you are 20, 30, 40, 50, doesn't matter. If you feel that you don't know about your religion as much and you don't know about your deen as much, start somewhere. Take an online class, go to the local masjid, speak to your shuyukh in the masjid. There are a lot of resources online as well. Learn your deen so that you can actually identify what is deen and what is culture. So those are the two takeaways. I hope this video is beneficial. And if you guys have any questions, and also if you guys, feel that was relatable, and this is something that you want to talk about again, there's a lot more cultural myths that we can actually address. Joint family systems, right? Stay-at-home mom versus working mom, so many different types of cultural myths that people think that it's actually religious. So if you feel that you want to have a video about that, please do let me know, inshallah. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. If you liked the video, if it was beneficial, share it with others, and I will see you next time. Assalamu alaikum.